he's presumed dead. Tutankhamun's body has been discovered, so he did die at age 17 from poisoning or from some other kind of violence. Nefertiti, the quest went on to find her remains. The expert on that is Lorraine Evans is very into that, and there's a couple of other great scholars who've written that. There's a book called Search for Nefertiti that gives you the updated information on that. Of course, she is described also as being very fair, her complexion, and as I said, her heredity seemed to be very much downplayed, if you want the truth, and that alerted me specifically. But then my story picks up that after the dynasties left, they did move to several places, and I went exactly by what the ancient Irish annals say. They were Satanists, and in Ireland they're known in the annals as the Milesians, based on one of the names of their king, Neil, and that they are said to have gone back to Scythia. I mean, it's right there. It's not me saying it. The translation into English was done in the 1600s, so you can imagine how old the actual texts are. They're hundreds of years old, if not thousands. The legends themselves go back to the earliest periods of Ireland, and in those legends they say that Scota and Meal and the Atnists came to Ireland. Now, part of the skewing of facts involves, of course, the dating. This is the big problem, because according to the monkish legends and according to the general understanding, these Milesian Atnist Egyptians came over from Spain into Ireland as the Gaels approximately 500 or 600 years BC. I grew up believing that, or at least knowing that. But my research now, in the latest days, I think that has been seriously misstated. I think they came a lot earlier. They were there at least 400 years more, which means 1,000 years BC. Not 600, but probably even 1,000 to 1,200, and that's still an ongoing question mark on that one. But I myself am convinced that it was at least 500 to 600 years, if not more, earlier than all the official legends say, and that will change history again. But then, as I said, Scota gave her name first to Ireland. Did you know that Ireland, one of its earliest names, was Scota?
No.
And that's how, when the Irish crossed over into Scotland, they brought the name with them. So the Scots get their name from the Irish settlers, whose own country was first named after the Egyptian queen.
How funny.
So it's right in our heritage. This is not bogus or fringe. This is official. This is well known. And the grave sites are there. They're being excavated. But who's doing the excavations? The problem is you're up against a Jesuit order. You're up against a British crown. These colonizers who desecrated the land from the beginning. You know, these
not encouraging.
Like I said, no, exactly not encouraging. And they also funded the desecration of Egypt itself. The Chaldeans, by the way, who were the quote-unquote monkish order of Christians who assisted in the suppression of the original Druids, did you know that they were the actual tutors of the Duke of Burgundy and the top-level Merovingian dynasties? The top Templar families were educated by Irish monks who had plagiarized the Druidic knowledge and therefore were transmitting this esoteric knowledge. So when people feel the Druidic symbolism on the flags and the heraldry and all this weird occult symbolism and Egyptian symbolism, as Jordan Maxwell has pointed out so many times, people are wondering where it comes from. It's because it's been plagiarized and it was taught to the elite families. Did you know that the Vatican City is aligned geomantically and geospherically to Tara?
No.
Did you know that the pyramid in Egypt is aligned perfectly geomantically to the Isle of Lewis, which was the headquarters of the Druids in Scotland, and so forth and so on? That many of the civic centers and many of the religious headquarters, including, as I said, the Vatican, are actually aligned with ancient sites such as Newgrange and Stonehenge, not negotiable, factual geometry, provable.
Amazing.
Now, if so if these civilizations are later, but they're deferring, the designers of those cities are aware, because they're Masonic, of course, they're aware that these sites in Ireland are sacred. That's why they're aligning the doorways, the windows, and the entire piazzas and all the rest of it. That's why there's 13 Egyptian, there's 20 Egyptian obelisks in the world, and 13 of them just happen to be in Vatican City. Pure coincidence. And the other ones are in London and Washington. Pure coincidence, you see?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
there's an
right.
enormous subject here, and now this vindicating piece of information not only suggests that there was some, okay, we can agree, oh yeah, all right, we'll agree there's some sort of east to west connection, I guess we got to accept that. No. This goes far and away beyond that. This is much more deep than just finding cocaine in the tombs of the mummies, or pictures of elephants in South America and parrot feathers in Egypt and all of this other stuff that's come up anecdotally over the years. This is absolute vindication for those people who said, no, it's not just that these people visited or being thrown out, like you asked earlier, moved westward in a vain attempt to find a new home. No, this shows that their origin originally, not visitation, but their ancestry came from the West in a direct west to east movement. That blows the whole thing wide open. And I'm glad you put the pictures up, because remember, Zahi Hawass adamantly refused to release this information when it came out. It's not official. This was leaked by people on the team and from behind the scenes silently. The head men adamantly said, it's in the report, I have it. It says, I will not release it. They were so frightened of what this means for the Afrocentrists and all of the other bogus stuff that's come out from the universities, and what the people will realize when they find that this there's no merit in it. So there's a complete clamp down.
Yeah,
Those
I got
pictures
it.
that you're putting up in the article is completely leaked.
Wow.
What does that tell you?
Yeah, it tells me tons. All right, back in just a minute with Michael as we continue. Again, his website is a treasury, a treasure trove of real history, real academic, scholarly examinations of what happened in the past, not the party line crap that is pervaded today as being the truth. Go to Michael's website, you'll be amazed. Now, this issue of so much, the genesis of modern civilization, we'll go back, a couple thousand years, we'll call it modern, because it's not Peking man. It's the roots of what we deal with today came from the area which is now known as Ireland. And Michael has made an astonishing case. Have you begun to get any, and I don't like a lot of people in the academic community because they're frauds. They're ego trippers. They live on grants. They'll do anything. They're basically whores, a lot of them. And people who come along and shake the boat, who live within the system, which you don't, often have their careers ruined. Many a geologist an archaeologist has had his or her career destroyed because they won't go along with the party line. So what kind of support have you been getting, Michael? I can't imagine anybody with half a brain looking at your material and not being stunned just for openers.
It's just ordinary people. I don't get any invitations or communiques.
Yeah,
not that I'm itching for it or anything like that.
They're afraid.
My colleague Andy Power, my colleague Ralph Ellis, we just do our thing. We're just ordinary people. We do our thing. We just, we have no faith in the officialdom. Not that it's all bad, but the general tenure of it, the general focus is disinformation up to gazoo. I mean, I can give you another classic example of that. Everyone looks at that famous golden mask of Tutankhamun, and every single website or magazine, in fact, they've taken it around every country in the world on display, the famous Tutankhamun exhibition. I know a lot of listeners have probably even seen it, or people they know have seen it. Well, guess what? That's not the face of Tutankhamun. That is the face of his brother, Semnakare. That mask was actually made for Semnakare, his brother. And then got moved or shifted over, and has been hitherto. This is you just mentioned it yourself. The charlatanism that proliferates. The very mask that all over the world is identified as Tutankhamun isn't even his face. So
well,
I mean, where does it begin and where does it end?
It doesn't. Yeah, perfect question. It doesn't look like him when you look at the reconstruction. It's compared to the. No.
Put in another tomb, completely separate, and only the scholars know that. And the masses of mankind and the Smithsonian and the National Geographic and everything, that's Time Magazine and you name it.